All right, welcome back. Day 3, right here on Recession-Proof, your finances in 30 days. Every day for the next 30 days. We're going to take some time together to relax, calm down, step away from Twitter and the news and everything that's sort of freaking us out, and we're going to spend time together. We are going to put our fear into action and dig into your finances. I've done this before, and I will do it again. Hundreds of thousands of people have been through this program in some capacity, and again, over the next 30 days, we're going to put you through it. Rough times ahead, but we'll be okay. So all those parents out there doing double duty, doing your work, and teaching, shout out to you. It's not as easy as it looks, is it? All right, if you have any questions, you can always hit us here on the Facebook page. I'll do my best to answer them. If you are watching on YouTube, because that's your preferred method of video consumption, put your questions in the comments and I'll answer those too. And of course, if you have a more direct question, you can always hit us up on Twitter at Pete the Planner. My name is Peter Dunn, Pete the Planner. I'm CEO of Hey Money and Your Money Line, both financial companies. I'm a USA Today columnist. I write books about money. My job is to help people solve financial problems. We are here today to try to make tomorrow easier. And today we're going to do it with a couple different techniques. The goal here, of course, every day is to give you actionable things you can do right now that'll improve your financial life. Here's the goal of the program in totality. I use that word too much when I write, by the way. No one cares. Cut at least $500 a month of spending. Look, our economy is going to need us to go out and spend money into it, all right, once we get stable. There's a lot of talk about stimulus from the government, who's getting what. We're getting $1,000 checks or people getting $2,000 checks. Those plans are going to come out in the coming days, and I will keep you abreast of what's going on there. And we're even putting some thought around for those people who are stable, who have employment stability. What's the best way to inject whatever stimulus payment you're getting directly into the economy immediately and efficiently? Because believe it or not, just clicking on something online doesn't stimulate the economy as maybe some other activities like hiring someone to do electrical work in your garage or something like that. We're getting our head around it, and I'll pass that information on to you. We also want to use this opportunity to press reset. We want to press reset on our financial lives. Have you ever had a better excuse to do that? I know a lot of us are sitting at home, working, parenting, being significant others to our significant other, but it's a good time to press reset. If you happen to enjoy this program and your significant other has not seen it yet, just share it with them. I'll get them on the same page. Finally, we want to stop guessing. There's so much uncertainty right now. And as we look again and isolate the 3 challenges we're dealing with as a global globe, so smart. Follow me. I know what I'm talking about. As a world, we're dealing with 3 issues. COVID-19. You're not going to hear any information about that from me. Listen to scientists. Number 2, we're dealing with the stock market as it continues to try to find its level and react to the third thing, which is the economy. And the stock market is reacting because we currently do not have a plan to solve the economy. We are working on your economy. See, that's what we're doing here. Working on your economy. We'll let our leaders work on the global economy, but all we can do is deal with what is in front of us. So you can always go to callheymoney.com if you want personal guidance. If you want to talk through some of these issues, you want to be heard and understand and talk about your specific situation and what you should do, we have people you can do that with at callheymoney.com. You can even use an offer code so you can get a little bit of a discount. The offer code is cheese. Why? Why not? Okay, day 3, here's what we're doing. The first topic, I'm going to be honest with you, it's a little wishy-washy, right? It's a good topic, but it's a little lovey-dovey. It's a little feely. With money, so many times you want to make it about numbers and action and this or that. But having done this for a long time, I can tell you how you think about money and how you use it as a resource is vitally important. There are 2 economic resources out there. There are money and there are time, and how you use your time thinking about your money can make a huge difference. So we're going to talk about the tricky balance between personal responsibility in times like this and accepting needed help. I've been talking to hospitality workers for the better part of the week on the phone, And here's what I know. First of all, it's an industry filled with wonderful people who serve you and me, right? And we love them. But there's a lot of guilt going on right now. There's a lot of guilt in that industry because people are ashamed, they're scared, they're just like you and me, except they may not have income, and they aren't so quick to file for unemployment because they don't want to burden the system. You know what? That's what unemployment is there for. I want you to take it. Do not feel bad. I can't absolve you of whatever guilt you're feeling, but just know there's a big difference between personal responsibility and accepting help when it's needed. And we're going to touch on that in just a second. Then finally, we are going to get into some tactics that are really going to matter. Mrs. Planner and I have actually already done this activity last week. So I'm going to walk you through it. And it is stopping the nickel and diming of your spending right now. More on that later. I was about to get into it, but let's get going. Okay. Personal responsibility. I'm a big fan, right? I love personal responsibility. It makes you feel empowered. If something's broke, maybe you can be the person to fix it. That is personal responsibility. But sometimes you need help. There's nothing wrong with that, right? We can't be so proud and so strong that we prevent ourselves and our families from getting the help we need right now. Maybe you're embarrassed that you're watching some weirdo on Facebook for 30 days and it makes you feel bad about what's going on. It's okay. We can help each other. I know more than ever, we're going to have to come together and help each other with the different skills and ideas that we have. Right now may not be your time to help us all, but your time will come, right? And then you just got to step up and do it. But personal responsibility is a weird concept in times like these, right? Because for years, for decades, for centuries, there's this concept of pulling yourself up by the bootstraps and making it work, which is great when you have bootstraps. Unfortunately, what's happened in our economy in the last several decades is that there's been a separation between the haves and the have-nots. So there are people who can have the opportunity based on upbringing and background and a socioeconomic position to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, although they sometimes don't have to pull themselves up that far. And then there are people that if they were to do it, it would be a near miracle because of the systemic poverty or other issues they're coming from. So I just want to make sure that we know here, this is going to be a hard period of your life. I told you there's no fear, but this could be a hard period of your life. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that you have to be your own hero here. Because a lot of times that's the American narrative. You got to be your own hero. I'll just say, having dealt with people's finances, again, for a really long time, it's not that simple. In fact, there's this measure in our country called living wage, which comes into focus more than ever. It's a concept I talk about in my normal life all the time, speaking and trying to help people. I haven't even considered it in light of this recession we're dealing with. Living wage is based on a dollar amount that you have to earn in the city in which you live, based on the number of people in your home, how many of them are working, and how many of them are children, in order to survive. You can find that. Should have made a slide, wasn't thinking ahead. Living wage, all one word. Of course, it's a website. livingwage.mit.edu. livingwage.mit.edu. If you're curious, what's the line between the haves and the have-nots that drives me crazy? By the way, I hate that we're divided into haves and have-nots. But the reality is, if you are making below living wage prior to the recession, or even right now, your goal is survival. You can't pull yourself up by the bootstraps until your income goes higher than the living wage. Some people watching this right now have an income of zero. Say in Spanish, cero. It's like high school Spanish. That's what we're up against. So I want to go through a few concepts specifically related to this and just try to get our minds around them. This is not tough guy talk, right? Tough guy talk would be like, it's on you to pull yourself out. That's tough guy talk. I'm not a tough guy. You can see I probably need to do a few more push-ups. All right, so here's the tricky balance. Here's the first one we need to deal with. Purchases can't permanently fill the void, which makes us feel empty. I'm going to say it again. Purchases can't permanently fill the void, which makes us feel empty. As you can see, I'm a stress eater. Man, I fill the void of my feelings with Reese's peanut butter cups, ideally peanut butter eggs. 'Tis the season. But it's not always a good idea. It's rarely a good idea. But a lot of us tend to get in our feelings with spending. We have things and we walk around in things, drive around in things, live in things to make people feel something about us. That's not that surprising. Some people call it keeping up with the Joneses. Some people call it fronting. That's right. It's all different things. However, in this period of time, you can't be so proud that you make bad financial decisions so that you appear that you're doing better than you are. It just doesn't make sense. You know, that thing we do when you take a phone call from someone and they say, hey, how's it going? And I'm always like, I'm good, good. I took a phone call from someone and they said, this morning, they said, how's it going? I'm like, you know what? I'm not so sure. Probably not good, right? I think we can be honest with each other. I think with social media, which we're all watching this through right now. Thanks, Zuck. With social media, there's all this pressure to appear that the virus and the economic impacts of the virus didn't affect you. Why do you don't have to feel that way? Please allow me to give you permission to be vulnerable, right? Because if people don't know you're hurting, and this isn't complaining, but if people don't know you need help, they may not offer you help because they'll just assume you're fine. We are not in a period of time where you can act like you're fine when you're not, mentally, physically, economically, relationship-wise, anything. We got to communicate more than ever. Next one, here's this. Understand the importance of an emergency fund. This is actually a little more tactical, a little less in your feelings. But understand the importance of an emergency fund. I'll tell you this, and I was telling a friend earlier today. Mrs. Planner and I, sometimes, if we have to take money out of an emergency fund, it's not fun, right? Just normal circumstances. Not fun. You saved it up, and now it's gone. And you actually, from a maturity and development standpoint, you go through different stages of how you view your emergency fund. Funny story for you. Actually sad. Embarrassing. We're being transparent. Mrs. Planner and I got married a month out of college in the summer of 2000. And our number one priority was getting a dog. And yes, we didn't go adopt a dog. We weren't that socially responsible at the time. Don't get mad at me about that. Our next dog was that way. We spent a lot of our savings, our emergency fund, on a dog. How much sense does that make? Well, when you're 22, you don't know. It made sense. Now, when we look at our emergency fund, we make different decisions with it. And not only that, but in this period of time, as we've discussed in the last few days, if we have to come out of pocket from our emergency fund in this challenge that we're in, we need to be okay with it. I mean, I can't conceivably think of a bigger emergency than we're in right now. I was trying to explain to my sweet 11-year-old daughter today. These are unprecedented times, but in a way that it's impossible to explain. How do you explain to a kid, this is likely the worst thing that can ever happen? People will be okay. Some people will be okay. But how do you explain that? And I think you have to have the same approach with your emergency fund. If you spend money out of your emergency fund over the coming months, okay, fine. What else is it there for? Right? I think I should be okay. Our income is studied at our organization. We're keeping everyone employed. They're getting their full pay. You never know what's going to happen, though. I have my emergency fund and I'm ready to use it. I think you need to adopt the same thing because that is personally responsible. How about the layout of this slide? Who did that? Adopt the phrase, I can't afford it. You know, I've always loved this idea that people hate to say, I can't afford it. It feels like you're defeated. It feels like you failed. Saying I can't afford it is empowering. We have a finite amount of money now, more than ever before. If you can't afford something, that's not a failure. It's a fact, right? There's no subjectivity. I can't afford it. Oh, no, I can't afford it, man. Sorry, can't afford it. And I feel like even saying that to kids doesn't make you feel like a loser or you're not making it. It shows them that there are limits. There are finite resources in all of our bank accounts. It's okay to say I can't afford it. And I would say right now, as long as you keep all of this in a positive light in the next 30 days, to say I can't afford it is a really empowering thing because you're saying it for your future self. Yes, I love instant gratification. That's why I prefer bacon cheeseburgers over kale salads. I love them. In the moment that I take the bite, it's so much pleasure on that grilled cheeseburger. So good. Yet, when it's all said and done, I'm not that satisfied. If I eat the kale salad, it's okay. It's fine. Whatever. Sorry, kale farmers. But at the end, I am satisfied, right? We have to understand the difference between pleasure and satisfaction. And I think a lot of times when it comes to saying I can't afford it, we feel dissatisfied and no pleasure in saying that, but there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction and eventually pleasure in saying you can't afford something. It's not a sign of weakness. There's an old song, don't take my kindness for weakness. Don't take the fact that I say I can't afford this as weakness. If you're within 5 years, oh, this is a little bit more tactical too. Man, this one just punched people in the face. A little face punching for you. If you're within 5 years of retirement or you are retired, the market rules are different for you. I've been trying to tell you, and for a long time, in the last 3 days, there's a couple things going on, right? COVID, market, economy. The market is still spastic, right? It is a nightmare right now because it doesn't see a plan forward. As soon as it sees a plan forward, it will settle down. Most of us should probably leave our money alone, myself included. I'm not making any moves on my portfolio. I hate to say my portfolio. It makes it seem real haughty. I've got a portfolio. Everyone's got one. Everyone who has one has one. I'm not making any moves. But if you're within 5 years to retirement or you've just retired, I'm not saying to make moves, but you need to talk to an investment professional immediately. That is not alarmist. If you don't, if you try to stomach it out or pull yourself up by the bootstraps, that's a problem. I talked to a wonderful friend this morning. She told me her dad had planned on retiring, her father-in-law, December of this year. She said, what do you think? And I said, well, you're going to have a lot more time to buy him a retirement gift because it's not happening. It's just not happening. And I think the worst thing you can do when faced with reality is to try to make it happen anyway. It is nearly impossible, likely, for this man to retire in December. But if he were to retire anyway, because that's what he was going to do, that's a giant mistake. And I would say if you're still working and this pushes your retirement back, that's actually not a bad thing because you have the means to fix the problem. Our problem isn't retiring or not retiring. Our problem is sustainable income. We tend to forget that. We tend to forget that retirement is not this finish line that you run across and like, I'm done. No, it's you cross a line and there's a dude pointing saying, hey, there's another 26 miles to go. Point two, right? That's what it is. So if you have a delayed retirement because of what we're dealing with right now, it's okay because you still have a sustainable income plan. And until that retirement income plan is completed, just keep going. It's better than not having a job. Now, who am I really concerned about when it comes to the market on this topic of personal responsibility and seeking help? People who just retired. People who retired in the last year or two who are depending on income from their investments. Why? It's really complicated, but it's called sequence of return risks. Okay. So when you retire and you have your assets and those assets, those investments, they spin off money to you, income so you can live on it. There's the assumption that those assets, investments, can go up and down over time, right? It's how investment advisors do retirement planning projections for people. All right, we're going to give you, 3 or 4% off of your portfolio. Sorry, I'm going to get super technical. Assuming the market does this over time, right? But if you start this process of taking income on a portfolio in a period of downward growth, a decline, right? That's bad because the sequence in which the returns happen, the downs before the ups, causes major problems. If you've just retired, talk to an investment advisor immediately. They may tell you you're fine. They may tell you to rebalance, but you have to talk to one. If you think about the people who are most in danger in our society today, people who just retired are at the top of the list for me, right along people who have no jobs. This is a lot of this stuff's my opinion, but it's an opinion based on expertise. This thing is a little more opinion, a little less expertise. It just happens to be my problem solving style. Let's not waste time and energy on blame right now. Oh, I feel like I know where some blame can go, but how does that help me? It really doesn't, right? It's one of those things where that we are in a sinking ship, grab a bucket or get out of the way. That's my opinion, right? Yes, I would love to yell at the person that kicked a hole in the boat that started to start sinking, but just grab a bucket. Now is not the time. I find if you're in this situation, it's so hard to stay focused and put your energy in the right place that you have to limit distractions. And getting mad about things doesn't really help. This isn't say till we can't look back and evaluate, but I'm talking about your financial life. I am trying to help you fix and or pre-fix your financial life, to build or rebuild That's what we're trying to do. Blame doesn't help. It really doesn't. Finally, don't freak out. Don't freak out. Tomorrow we're going to talk about writing down things that are freaking you out, things that are scaring you, realities, things that aren't so unrealistic or so realistic, but they still scare us. But you can't freak out. You have to act, right? That's why this 30-day program is meant to cause action. If you're not spending a few minutes afterwards each day going through these exercises, you're not acting, right? I'm freaking out too a little bit, right? Here's my mistake, and I encourage you not to do this. I'll read really good information that I want to know and should know at the wrong time of day. Reading a big thread on the virus at 11:15 at night when you're laying in bed and about to put your phone down, it's a bad idea, right? Sadly, I've done that for about a week straight. I got to stop doing that. Someone tweeted me today and said, I read your tweets. I just went third person. Gee, many Christmas. This whole thing has sunk. I just went third person. Pete the Plater doesn't do that. People are reading my threads at the wrong time and freaking them out. We got to choose to get this information to us in a little smarter way. All right, now some real tactics here. Nickel and dime. In good times, we nickel and dime ourselves. Give you an example. For anyone in their 40s or above watching this right now, do you remember when you were in your 20s? 20-year-olds, just sit out with this one for a second. Remember when you were in your 20s, older people like me, and your financial life was just simpler, right? It was hard, but it was simpler. There were fewer bills, fewer obligations, new challenges, right? Because you hadn't dealt with that before, but it was simpler. And what happens over time is, for most of us, our financial lives actually get more complicated. That's what's frustrating to us, is that we have more experiences with money. Sometimes we get better with them, but those experiences are often new experiences. So our old experiences don't always inform what to do with the new experiences. So we add new obligations, right? We just say, it's $5 a month. What's it matter? I'll take it, right? It's $19.99 a month. I'll take it. It's $16.90. You get the point, right? We just gather these habits and these obligations. And what ends up happening is, if you look at your budget, you've got 5, 10, 20 monthly small nickel and dime payments that add up to a big chunk of change. And I'm telling you right now is the time to press reset on that. And I know the fear is to say, well, I'm going to hurt the economy by pulling these expenses out. If you don't have income or employment stability and you don't have proper savings, worry about yourself. Stop paying these expenses, right? Other people, maybe me, who has an emergency fund, has employment stability, maybe some of these make sense to keep going. Some of them don't. Some of them don't. I talked to a friend this morning, a good friend, right? Who can afford it? Sort of a weekly therapy thing, not mental, more physical pleasure, massage. Maybe that doesn't make sense right now if you can't afford it. For him, he can afford it. But it's weird how we trick ourselves into these things out of the guise of, I deserve it. Whether you do or not, now is the time to press reset, and here's how you do it. As we talked about early, day one, grab your bank statements or your credit card statements or whatever you spend money with, right? Grab those statements, go through them with a marker or pen, or prick your finger, use blood, I don't care, right? Then wash your hand. And then just identify. Oh, $4.99 a month for that. Oh, $4.99 a month for that. $17.99 a month for that. Add them all up. Take a look at what that costs you every month, multiply by 12, and see what you're spitting out on an annual basis. What can be even more fascinating, you don't have time for this, you can go back and look at your statements for the last several months of the last several years, and you see these just accumulate. Sometimes the old ones don't go away. We just stack on top. That's what happens when your priorities in your life change, but you don't tell your money, right? You have expenses you don't care about them, or you're not even using them anymore, but they're just there. So your job is to cut. Now, I have good news. Oh, that feels good to say. That feels good to say. I have good news. Some of the habits we've been forced to change recently, like working from home, like shooting a live streaming series from my home office, have led to changes. I'm not spending as much on fuel, not dining out for lunch or really dinner at all right now. People aren't even picking up their dry cleaning. People aren't dropping off dry cleaning. Habits have changed. I don't know how long these new habits will exist in our lives, but I can tell you, as of right now, there are some things eliminated that unless you identify what you used to do and what it is currently saving you, you may waste that money. Just because you don't spend money doesn't mean you saved the money. If I always go get tacos on Tuesday because it's Taco Tuesday and I spend $7 by not going and spending the $7, I didn't save $7 unless I take the $7 that I would have spent and put it somewhere. If it just sits there, it's just sitting there. It is not saved. It's just not spent. Big difference. If you spend $100 a week dining out and you currently are not dining out $100 a week, grab that freaking money and put it somewhere. Savings, right? Put it into a new bank account that someday you will go and blow on every restaurant and cocktail lounge in your area. But don't just let it sit in your checking account, because you will find a way to spend it on stuff that doesn't matter, right? And now is not the time for that. So examine your habits and cut there first. We went long today. Sorry, y'all. You can get help from my team. Call heymoney.com. Probably won't talk to me. Why? Because they're all better than me. You'd much rather talk to them. Sure, I'm funny and good looking, but they're great and they'll help you. Go to callheymoney.com. You can always use the discount code cheese. Why did I choose that? I knew I was going to regret it. I told my VP of marketing, I was like, just make the code cheese. And she looked at me weird, even though I sent it an email, but I could feel the look across the interwebs. She was right. Shouldn't have chose that. But anyway, it's cheese. You get a discount. Call heymoney.com. We're in this together. Send me your questions. Drop them in there. We're going to get through this. We need each other, though. We need each other. So dig in these next 30 days. Hit your questions to me. Follow me on Twitter at Pete the Planner. Take care of your family. The most important thing right now is your family. It's really hard to be distracted with all these other things, but your family's the most important thing right now. And I'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m.